Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 139 of the J Situation Podcast. I'm recording this on November 15th, 2022. Oh my goodness gracious. Man, the fall season's in full swing. It is. How you folks doing on this wonderful brisk day? No, I'm doing well. But I have to admit, things are a little hectic. I'm working some 16 to 18 hour days early this week, unfortunately, due to some extenuating circumstances. So I am fitting this podcast into a strange time. Right now, I don't have a lot of time, but there's a lot to cover. So I'm going to jump right in. Okay, I wanted to speak with you about some recent hunting I did, but again, there's no time today. So we're going to have to table that discussion until next time, and we'll just go ahead and move into some technical topics for this episode, okay? All right, so let's get on with it. This episode of the podcast is brought to you by High-End Armament Technology. That's right. They're a dealer of exactly that, high-end arms and accessories. They have significant longevity in the machine gun and the NFA game, as well as significant expertise in both the procurement and operation of night vision, thermal optics, and infrared sighting systems. That's right, Robert and his crew have decades of experience and actual knowledge of the gear. If there's a weapon system that's rare and you're having trouble locating, or maybe you want to get into the night vision game, the thermal game, maybe even the transferable machine gun game, they're a great place to call. Check them out at highendarms.com, on Instagram at highendarms, and they even have a Facebook page, which is also High End Arms. I hope they can help you folks out. If you need it, tell them Jay sent you. Also, the J Situation Podcast is proudly sponsored by Silencer Shop. You can use their kiosk, do your fingerprints and photos electronically, and in turn, you cut down on errors, simplify your silencer purchasing process. It's great. You get a money-back guarantee, no transfer fees, no paperwork errors, just you and your silencer with no drama. It truly is silencer ownership simplified. And as always, check the show notes out on the episode notes of the podcast there at pewscience.com/podcast and in Spotify, iTunes, stuff like that. You'll find a link to True Shot Gun Club out of Arizona. If you click that link and you buy ammo, it helps the podcast. That's right. If you join their A-Zone Club to get free shipping on all your ammo over a whole year, use code word PEW Science and get $20 off that membership. Everybody wins. There's also a link to Magpul. Use the code word PS10, that's PSTEN, when you use that link to get $10 off your order of $100 or more. Stock up on mags. It's very important. Magpul. That's right. And lastly, and most importantly of all, this podcast is sponsored by PEW Science, pushing the silencer industry forward, one test at a time. Visit pewscience.com for the suppression rating. It is the simplest and the most accurate hearing safe ratings for your suppressed small arms. It's based on true human inner ear response from the entire gunshot before combustion takes place all the way until all the combustion is gone. PEW Science is the home of the silencer sound standard. 7 sections. The most in-depth and accurate silencer data and analysis in the world. Check it all out on pewscience.com. And you can support this podcast, PEW Science, and all the testing I do for you by joining with a membership at pewscience.com. There's also a donate feature on the review page and the podcast page. Every little bit helps. Something that's free and doesn't cost you anything. Give this podcast a good 5-star rating on iTunes and Spotify, things like that. Let folks know that silencers and guns are awesome. And we will normalize the use of suppressed small arms. Okay, I know we're blowing and going today, but it's important. 3 topics. Topic 1, Sound Signature Review 697, the HUXWRX Cash 9K on the P30L semi-auto pistol. That's right. Technical discussion. Very interesting performance. Let's talk about it. Topic 2, Sound Signature Review 698, the Cash 9K on the HK SP5 subgun. Same silencer, different host. That's right. Technical discussion again. We'll move into that. The MP5 can benefit from lower back pressure? It can. It can, friends. And then finally, topic 3. This has been a significant and consistent effort, both inside and outside PEW Science. Okay, so I do want to thank you for your patience and for your support. And I want to give a quick note about the testing and analysis effort. And I want to remind you all about the PEW Science mission for those of you who are new to this and for those of you who have forgotten, which I have come to notice. Okay, topic 1, a time of 4 minutes and 46 seconds. All right, some water. And I'm sorry if you're just tuning in for the first time and you hear me talking like a lunatic right now at an incredibly fast pace. That's because I literally do not have enough time for this, so I'm going to try to pack it in. We're going to give it the old college try. Topic 1, Sound Signature Review 697, the Cash 9K on the HK P30L. That's right. Semi-auto pistol, 9mm. Man, I am really excited. I'm really excited that we are growing the data set of suppressed semi-auto pistol performance. I often feel that this is a neglected part of silencer behavior characterization. A lot of folks make pistol silencers, but when you ask people about the performance of those silencers, there's even less information than for rifle silencers. And why is that? I was thinking about this. I was like, why is that? Well, it's because a suppressed semi-automatic pistol is one of the most complicated small arm systems we have. The collective we. Now, I've discussed some of why that is on previous episodes. Actually, for example, topic 3 in episode 136. That's good for that topic. That was pretty recent. That was from late last month, right? Like 3 or 4 episodes ago, I talked about piston mechanics. So that's a good primer. That's a good primer for you with regard to piston mechanics, and we'll go into that further as PEW Science presents more pistol testing and analysis. And another thing we'll go into is flow restriction in pistol silencers or back pressure, the same phenomenon that occurs in rifle silencers. And we'll talk about the technical factors of concern on semi-auto pistols, specifically how that manifests. I think this is what we're going to get into. And so today, this is actually a pretty fortuitous topic in that vein, right? Because this is a sound signature review, hot off the presses. It's the HUXWRX Cash 9K on the P30L. Yeah, sound signature review. Okay, so this is very topical with some of the discussions we've been having recently. Just so happens to be. 1 second. Excuse me. So yeah, now before we get into the article discussion, the data and analysis, the meat of it, so to speak, the essence, I do want to speak about the physical characteristics of the silencer. Okay, I want to speak about that first. Now, HUXWRX, previously only branded as OSS, right? They had a silencer called the Rad 9. Okay, that silencer was modular, or is modular if they're still making it. I don't know. But it was modular in that it had a short configuration and a long configuration, okay? I believe that the Cash 9K is almost identical to the short configuration of the Rad 9. All right. Now, there were some changes to the baffles in the OSS pistol silencers. And some of you may know this, some of you may not know it. The Rad 22 and the Rad 9, those silencers that OSS made back in the day, or a few years ago, at first they had similar geometric features in the baffles as a dead air mask baffle in some ways. A little bit. Now, that was some time ago. Okay, now the baffles now in those silencers, they're all curved cones with 2 mill cuts that have some other features. So they're a little bit, they changed a little bit. Okay, so now just prefacing that, prefacing the discussion with that, let's talk about exactly what's inside this silencer. Okay, because I got some questions about, what's the Rad 9? I was like, I think the Cash 9K is basically the short configuration of the updated Rad 9. I think that's true. Okay, but I'm going to tell you about the Cash 9K that I have here on my desk that I tested. Okay, so this is the latest and greatest. But I'm like, hesitation. No. I'm just trying to frame the discussion efficiently to actually talk about this in a meaningful way. I think I need to start with a refresher on OSS and the HUXWRX silencers, like the OSS/HUXWRX silencers, and I think I need to speak about the rifle silencers first. And I did this in the article, but I think it's important for folks to understand this evolution, okay? So, folks will recall that the OSS rifle silencers employ something called flow-through technology, right? Okay, so in the rifle silencers, the internal baffle geometry does not work the same way as traditional baffle technology does. It just doesn't, okay? In the flow-through technology, gas is immediately routed in two directions. All right? The first, it goes through the primary bore path because the bullet has to travel down the primary bore, so gas is going to follow it. Okay, that's something you should understand. But the second direction is it goes to an outer annular cavity. All right? And so unlike many silencers in which gas is routed to an outer annulus, the flow-through technology has an annulus that it not only possesses helical flow paths, but it folds back upon itself. It does. And it does when it does that, the gas travels forward and aft and then forward again. It's crazy. And when it travels forward for that last time, it vents to atmosphere through the distal vents. Okay? And that gas flow, that annular flow, it occurs concurrently with the primary axial bore flow. It does. And it's through that continuous gas travel that the silencer gases get cooled and the suppression is achieved. You're getting a lot of heat transfer. You're moving those gases through an arduous path continuously, okay? And you folks have already seen how those rifle silencers work. You've already seen it. You know, you saw them in review 641 on Supersonic 308. Then you saw them again in review 645 with Subsonic 300 Blackout. Okay? And when you saw those two reviews, you saw how the performance of the technology changed in those flow regimes. Didn't you? And why was that? Why did you see that? Why did you see that change between Supersonic 308 and Subsonic 300 Blackout? Why did it change? Well, the suppression performance changed because of combustion, pressure, and duration. Okay? And in the case of Supersonic 308, all the gas paths were exercised. They were all exercised, okay? And in the case of Subsonic 300 Blackout, the peak pressure was lower, and the duration was so much shorter that by the time the pressure in the silencer got high enough to start to exercise the gas paths, the event was over. Dude, you get a significant amount of gas travel through the primary bore, don't you? You do. And the suppression is there, but it's significantly less efficient through the primary bore on the flow-through design because it doesn't have traditional baffles. So if you're getting most of your gas go through the primary bore and there's no baffles in the primary bore, and your annulus doesn't get utilized, and you need the annulus, efficiency drops. That's right, suppression efficiency drops. So that's what you noticed in Subsonic 300 Blackout with the OSS rifle silencers. But now, big picture, what do you know about Subsonic 300 Blackout? Well, it's very similar to a subsonic pistol cartridge, isn't it? That's right, it is. And because of that, what do we know? Well, it has a lower combustion pressure and duration than a rifle cartridge. Yeah. So what would OSS and HUXWRX need to do to ensure a technology works in such a combustion regime, but still results in low back pressure? How, in other words, I know that's a strange question. Let's ask it a different way. How do you keep flow rate high and still suppress when the pressure and duration of the input load are both lower? That's your problem statement. You go to school, you write your problem statement down in the class. The professor asks you, says, okay, write your assumptions, write your problem statement on a piece of paper. He's doing that to drill you to think about the problem first. It's important for logical thought. So I'm trying to help you do. Okay? Both designers and consumers right now. How do you keep flow rate high and still suppress when the pressure and duration of the input load are both lower? Well, you would have to change the flow-through technology, wouldn't you? That's right. You would have to use more traditional baffle elements. So OSS and HUXWRX did that. They did. And what did they do when they did that? They called it the flow baffle. That's right. You can make fun of the name all you want. You can make fun of the name HUXWRX. You can make. I don't care. It's not my rodeo. I'm not in marketing. I don't do it. I don't care. All I'm telling you is what the vernacular is and what it's called, so you can recognize it technically. Okay, so they call this the flow baffle, and I explain it in the article. And to be clear, I should probably say this now. To be clear, it's written in the article, but this is a contracted test program for HUXWRX. Okay, so you need to know a couple things. Okay, first thing, all the 7.62 rifle and 300 blackout testing done by PEW Science for the HUXWRX. Oh, 1 second. I'm so sorry. I'm telling you, I had to fit in a meal and this podcast prep and the podcast in right before a meeting I have to go to because I'm going to be working all night. It's a long story. What was I saying? Oh, right. All the 7.62 rifle testing, the 308, all the 300 blackout testing done by PEW Science on the HUXWRX, on the OSS stuff, all of that was done prior to any contracts from HUXWRX, any membership of OSS or HUXWRX to the research cooperative. That was all done, internal PEW Science funding, without even talking to these people. Okay, so it was my research, me, Jay. It was my research that got their attention. And they flew me out to Utah so I could visit their lab and we could compare test results and analysis. Okay, this was an active industry peer review trip. Okay, there's that word peer review that people, they love to throw that around now. Okay, yeah. I took time out of my week to travel to Utah, and OSS and PEW Science performed peer review on data analysis from both parties. That's right. Okay, a lot of people don't want you to know that, but that's true. That happened. Got the t-shirt. No, I actually didn't get a t-shirt, which now that I think about it sucks. Second thing that you need to know is that all of the explanations that I gave you for the OSS flow-through technology, like on my website, pewscience.com, that's all my own words, okay, entirely. And also in these articles, nothing I wrote that you see on the website was written by OSS or HUXWRX. And I'll tell you something else. They didn't even see the article before I published it. Okay? That's how PEW Science isn't like these gun magazines that, it's not the same thing. Okay, this is my words. This is my research. All right? Okay, so as I go on, I want you to keep those things in mind. Remember, I do these podcasts that I do in one take. They're done by me and only me. I write everything on the website. All right. So remember, when these silencer dealers and these silencer companies slander PEW Science, and they slander the PEW Science clients, and they slander the PEW Science consumer members and PEW Science companies, I want you to know they can easily listen to this podcast and know the truth. All right. And instead, they choose to lie to you. Okay. Well, I don't lie, and I've proven it. Okay. So be extremely cautious with what you read regarding this effort from people who sell silencers. I don't care if they're a member of PEW Science or not. Okay? Any company can join PEW Science. Okay? Anybody. And it doesn't mean they're doing it for the right reasons. Trust me. And it's pretty transparent. Okay? Just know that. Because I think we're at that point now where a lot of people are noticing some tomfoolery going on. And it's not, I'm just going to let it play out. That's how I do things. I'm open. And you'll figure that out if you don't know me. You'll figure it out. So nobody in this industry explained the technical behavior of flow-through technology on a large scale before PEW Science. No. And look, and for those of you who don't like me mentioning PEW Science, you should turn off the podcast. Okay, go find something else to listen to because you're not my target audience. All right, 1 second. All right, moving on to the important parts. The flow baffle. It's a hybrid technology. The technology must flow quickly. That is, the flow must be able to not stagnate in early time. Super important. The path must be favorable for it to do so. And there must be balance between the high flow rate region and the primary bore path region. That's right. Those two, I'm going to call them flow zones. I mean, for lack of a better term, those two zones, they have to be balanced because you got to get enough turbulence generated at a low pressure, and you don't want to run out of time occupying the flow zones prior to the pressure dropping below a critical threshold. If you drop that pressure below a critical threshold too soon for your design, you're going to lose an incredible amount of efficiency. Okay, I'm going to call that the saturation pressure. For lack of a better term, I think I'll probably eventually going to have to quantify it, and then I'm going to have to name it. Because it's critical to suppression in a certain flow regime, and you guys are going to figure that out. All right, so we can talk about those gas dynamics in a more detailed way later. I'm going to have to instrument a silencer. I'm going to have to start plugging pressure gauges into the silencers, which I'll do. I'll do it. I just don't have time right now. So mechanically, how did OSS do this? Or HUXWRX. How did HUXWRX do this? If you take the silencer apart, which you can, it's cool. You can take it apart to clean it. You'll see it. The inertial decoupler cage, where is it? I got a tube on my desk here. 1 second. I got the tube on my desk here. I took the silencer completely apart here. I ate a sandwich and then I took the silencer apart. There's an inertial decoupler cage inside it. It's vented, per typical, but it has a significant amount of venting in the cage. And immediately there's radial venting, and the baffles accept this radial venting. That's right. In fact, each baffle possesses annular space, and it's done in a very simple way, because it's not really that the baffle has annular space, it's that it creates it. Okay, because all the baffles are undersized for the ID of the tube, the inner diameter of the tube, right? So the way they remain centered is they have helical machine ridges on the outer diameters of the baffles, you see. That's right. And what do those ridges do between the baffle outer wall and the tube inner wall? Well, they create a helical flow path, just like in the OSS rifle silencers, right? It's not just like it, but it is similar. The difference is that the helical flow path is much shorter. It's much shorter than in the rifle silencers because it doesn't loop back on itself, right? And why? Why would it be shorter? Well, your combustion pressure and duration is shorter, homie. That's right. So what's a simple one-word answer to why it's shorter? Time. That's right. The dimension of time. I kept telling you, I tell you over and over again, if you don't view all of this data as dynamic events and consider the dimension of time, you are doing absolutely nothing. Okay, you're fighting the losing baffle. Okay, this is one of the main reasons why single peak DB testing doesn't work. Okay, I don't care who's doing it. I don't care. I really don't care. I don't care who is doing it today. I don't care what Patreon, YouTube, I don't care. I do not care who's doing it. It doesn't work. Okay, companies had sound meters for 30 years. Then they bought an off-the-shelf DAC and they used it as a sound meter. And nobody learned anything, okay, in 30 years. And then here's another 30 number for you. They threw $30,000 in the trash. They're all using DACs like sound meters. Okay, if you do that, you can't properly characterize silencers. And you most definitely can't characterize OSS silencers. Hey, OSS is guilty of it too. Why do you think they use PEW Science now? Because PEW Science is doing this and giving you meaningful results. That's right. Oh, I mentioned PEW Science again. Sorry. Yeah, sorry, it's inevitable because that's why you have this. All right. So look, when you look at this, you have successive flow baffles. You have 5 of them. Take it apart. You can Google a picture of this thing. There's 5. It's comically simple the way this works. You have 5 flow baffles. They're curved cone, double mill cut, shrouded in an outer wall that forms the annulus with the outer tube with helical ridges, dude. This is all rocket science, but of the rocket science, it's surprisingly simple. It's cool. There's 2 distinct flow paths, 1 silencer. That's right. That's a flow baffle stack in so many words. 2 distinct flow paths, 1 silencer. And why? Well, HUXWRX had to do this because of the combustion pressure and duration. This is why resilient suppressors had to do what they did too. Okay? Did they do the same thing as HUXWRX? Well, no. No, they didn't. Theirs doesn't flow as fast as the HUXWRX silencer does. Why? They don't let it flow as fast. Resilient doesn't let their silencer flow as fast as HUXWRX lets theirs flow. Okay, look at the 2 designs. Look at them. You can Google the internals. You can find this. You tell me which one flows faster. You tell me. Without even looking at the data, you tell me when you look at the design. Why do I use the term faster instead of more? Because I'm operating in the dimension of time when I speak about flow. Time, speed. How fast is it flowing? How fast does it flow? How fast does it achieve maximum flow? How quickly? Time. What is also based on time? What's another time-dependent metric? PEW Science Omega metric. That's right. Spoiler alert. Research Supplement 640. How many years has that been on the website? It's a rate, isn't it? The Omega metric. What's the denominator of that quantity? It's a slope. It's a rise over run. It's like literally like, isn't that algebra? It's like Mickey Mouse stuff. That's high school, man. Middle school. I'm gonna keep saying the word time, and you're gonna keep hearing it. Ignore time, ignore performance, make mediocre silencers. Okay? All right. Last part of this silencer, as you move to the distal end, of the silencer. That means, what's the distal end? It's the end with the end cap on it. Okay. You move to that. What you do, if you look at this baffle stack, it's kind of interesting. You move to a final annular expansion chamber, and what happens there? Well, the gas starts to stagnate, and then what does it do? Well, it can vent immediately when it gets there. That's right. HUXWRX did maintain a key feature of the flow-through technology in the flow baffle. Yeah, they have distal circumferential vents in the end cap. What does that mean in plain English? They have holes in the end cap other than the big borehole. Holes all around in a circle. That means, distal circumferential vents means holes in a circle on the end cap. Okay, it's important. And you know what? I was thinking about this when I was driving the other day or last night. I was like, I haven't figured out how to clog these vents. I was like, man, just to test it, like, if you clog these vents and test it, I hadn't figured that out, but I was like, maybe if you use some aluminum foil or something, you could clog them up and then test it. And I was thinking, man, that silencer is not going to work in the same way at all if you did that, right? It'd be crazy because you completely change the flow rate. Anyway, that's just an aside. I thought it was interesting, like an interesting thought experiment. But, it is cool. You can take the silencer apart to clean it because you can also take it apart and see how it works, which I think is very good for you guys to be able to see. That's right. You can Google some photos probably. I know I shared one on an Instagram story because someone wanted to see it. So, all right. So now I'm going to put this down on my desk here. Now that you folks know how it works mechanically, let's talk about the data and analysis. Yeah. So go ahead and pull up Sound Signature Review 696 on pewscience.com, and you can follow along. That's right. I'm going to go ahead and pull up the member version of the review here, and so you can follow along with either the member version or the free version there at home. It's up to you. You don't miss anything from my discussion regardless, so it should be okay for you. Okay, I try to make this inclusive for everyone that's listening. I know you probably in your car. I don't want you to miss something. So bottom line up front, 45.3 composite suppression rating on the P30L pistol. It's a 9mm semi-auto pistol. The modern HK semi-automatic handgun, full-size handgun, okay? 38.6 at the muzzle, 43.8 at the ear. Oh man, 40 zone at the shooter's ear on a 9mm semi-auto pistol. Yeah, that's significant. It is. Let's talk about it though. And to do that, how would we talk about this expediently? Well, let's go ahead and start in our favorite place. The silencer's fingerprint. That's right. Scroll down to figure 1. Scroll down all the way down past the peak numbers. They will not help you. That's right. Figure 1. Right away, you're seeing behavior that's super unique. You are. Pay attention. It doesn't look like a typical suppressed pistol signature, does it? No. What's something you notice right away? Speed, time, velocity. That's right. Fast rise and fast blowdown. The time regime of the signature is compressed. That's right. Everything's faster. Everything's happening faster. Why is that? Flow rate's faster. You see it in figure 1A in the whole signature. And how can you tell it's the whole signature? Remember? Oh, that's right. Because the weapon returns to battery in every shot, and you can see that. And I keep recording. That's right. Just something I do to make sure you know it's real. That's right. So you can see that in figure 1A. You can see how fast everything blows down, but take a look at figure 1B right next to it for a closer look, a much closer look. Look at the time regime. What is that like? A little over 2 milliseconds of time. But there's so much to learn. Just from those few milliseconds, look how much you can learn. Check out the fast jetting. Look how fast the gas comes out. Look how long the pressure stays positive in early time before going into rarefaction. Okay, well, what do I mean when I say before going into rarefaction? I mean before going into significant negative phase. It's rarefaction. Okay, you can Google. This isn't me making up words. You can Google these terms if you need to. Okay, a really good way, and it's so clear in the figure, especially for you experienced analysts that have been listening to this podcast. But a really good way to see this happen is to change space from pressure space to impulse space by going to figure 2. That's right. Scroll further down. Go to figure 2. Now it's blatant. That's right. You have to look at both. That's why I give you pressure and impulse so you can fully understand the behavior. That's right. Look how steep the impulse rise into KR in figure 2A. Look at it. It's incredible. This is actually incredible on a pistol. That's extremely high flow rate. And I haven't even said a number to you yet. Notice I haven't said a peak dB. I haven't said anything. I'm only talking about wave shape so far. Are you getting it? Okay. So you saw this a little bit in the RSP data, didn't you? You did. Remember from resilient suppressors, that all shocked us. 1 second. I gotta pause this 1 minute. Okay, I'm back. Right. What I was saying, you saw this a little bit in the RSP data. This a lot of waveform properties that were indicative of high flow rate. But you didn't see it like this. No, not like this. The HUXWRX silencer flows faster. It does flow faster than the resilient RSP. It does. Now, does it suppress as well as the RSP? And for that matter, does it suppress as well as the other silencers on this host? Okay. Well, the best way to figure that out is to scroll all the way down to figure 5. That's right. Let's skip ahead. Scroll down, keep going. I'm pressing the member stuff, of which there's a lot. Boom, 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 boom. Hey, it is what it is today, right? Figure 5. Here you see something incredibly interesting. The Cache 9K is actually suppressing more favorably at the muzzle than the RSP. Okay? And that's a really, really big deal, considering that it has a higher flow rate than the RSP. It's a pretty big deal. Now, it's not a huge difference, mind you. It's not a huge difference, but it's there. Okay? So now with that, consider how short the Cache 9K is. It's very short. Okay? That puts the pressure origin closer to your head, at least the muzzle pressure origin, right? Understand? And it just so happens the combination of lower back pressure and good muzzle signature is favorable enough such that the holistic signature at the shooter's ear doesn't drop that much compared to the RSP. Okay, so you're getting closer to your head, but you flow so fast that you get a little wiggle room. Okay, and then the sound field magic happens. All right, this is very complicated wave dynamics. So remember, I've told you this on some other episodes. We talked about the AR-15, specifically the Mark 18. A lot of times I talk about you robbing Peter to pay Paul. That means giving something up in order to get something. Like you can't get something for nothing. I talk about a lot, right? Now, in this particular case, you're not robbing him as much as with the with the OSS technology per typical, but there's still some gives and takes, as it were. But you don't have to rob Peter as much to pay Paul. That's right. Overall, what are you doing? Well, you're getting an extremely balanced condition here with the Cache 9K is what you're doing. This thing's absolutely tiny for a pistol silencer, and it's basically giving you RSP performance with a higher flow rate in a smaller package. And that's crazy. Okay, and it's pretty wild. It is. And I think I want to say I think the composite suppression rating for the two systems on this host are similar. I think they're within a point or something, which makes that should make sense to you. Okay? It should make sense to you given what you're seeing here, right? Now, you may say, "Jay, that's all well and good. You know, the RSP has a high flow rate. The Cache 9K has a high flow rate. Those silencers are doing better at the shooter zero and the pistol, you know, in figure 5. Is there a way to do this with a conventional pistol silencer? Maybe a pistol silencer that doesn't have as radical a design as the RSP or the Cache 9K? Can we do this with a normal can? You may be asking me, or yourself, or the collective. My answer, friends, to you is sort of, kind of. We have the data. Let's look at it, right? Right? Look at the short configuration of the Obsidian 45 from Rugged. It's on the chart. That's right. You have the data. It's right there. In fact, you've had that data since May of 2020 when it was published. Yeah, you've had that data for over 2 years. There's a really big hole in that silencer. Not a lot of baffles. And at the muzzle, you're getting something in between the Cache 9K and the RSP. That's interesting, right? The muzzle suppression rating of the short configuration of the Rugged Obsidian 45 falls between that of the Cache 9K and the RSP. Same gun, same ammo. Interesting, right? Why? Well, that's your primary axial overbore with conventional baffles doing that, isn't it? Yeah, it's kind of trapping gas, but not as much as it wants to. The hole's so big. Then what happens? Because remember, guys, that's a 45 caliber silencer on a 9mm gun. The hole's big. It tries to trap gas, but it's not that good at it. So that's what happens. So then what? Well, look at the shooter's ear suppression rating. SpaghettiOs. That's right. Takes about a half category dive, doesn't it? The Obsidian 45 in the short configuration. About half a category dive at the shooter's ear. Goes down. Gets louder. Gets about half a category louder to the shooter on a pistol using the short configuration of the Obsidian 45 instead of an engineered high flow rate design like the RSP or Cache 9K. Purpose built. Why? Why is that? Why do you get louder at the shooter's ear even though you have that big old hole? Well, the Obsidian 45, it has that big old hole, which is great for a higher flow rate to a point. Put it in the short configuration, and you have a pretty good shot at getting that high flow rate. You really do. Except it doesn't really work as well as it should. You know why? Why? Why doesn't it work as well? Well, what have we said about primary axial overbore as a method of increasing flow rate and maintaining sound suppression? It's inefficient. And you can see it here. It holds true yet again, and we're not even talking about rifle silencers. We're talking about pistol silencers on pistols. The primary reason it does not work is, you guessed it, time. That's right, the dimension of time. The early time flow rate of the Obsidian 45 in any configuration is too low. It has zero venting. Super simple baffles with a big hole in the middle. Does not make high flow rate. It does not. It makes the flow rate higher, but not as high as it needs to be, clearly. Look, you can see clearly why. Look at the data. It's right there, dude. Figure 5 shows you everything you need to know here. All right. It makes a higher flow rate than a smaller hole, but it does not make as high a flow rate as dedicated, purposefully engineered porting. And I can assure you of that. We have data to show you that now. It's done. That's the truth. Them's the breaks. Okay? The Cache 9K sends gas to an annulus with a purpose, and it commits to it. It's very committal in its performance. Holistically, the design commits. It commits. It follows through. I was going to say it flows through. It follows through, literally. It does. The RSP is similar in that way. Resilient. They committed. They committed. Not as strongly as HUXWRX committed. But they did commit, didn't they, to that flow rate. Purposefully designed. Yeah, the Obsidian 45, it'll work. It'll definitely work. But that's because it is what it is. There's no purpose-built reason why the Obsidian 45 in the short configuration will outperform the Cash 9K or RSP on 9mm pistol. The only reason it hangs at the muzzle is due to traditional curved cones with mill cuts, dude. The back pressure is still higher, and it's nothing special to shooter's ear compared to purpose-built low back pressure pistol silencers. That's it. That's just the way it is. It doesn't mean you can't use your Obsidian 45 in the short configuration on your 9mm pistol. It doesn't mean that. I just want you to understand why Figure 5 shows what it shows. Okay? I'm showing you what reality is. And I'm explaining to you why the data looks like that. Okay? Okay. So, look at all the other stuff. Look at all this other stuff. We're not done talking about this figure. Look, you got the long configuration of the Obsidian 45. You got the Mod 9 full-size silencer from CGS. You got the Trident 9 from SWR. Yeah, our data set's growing, isn't it, on this pistol? All these silencers that I just mentioned, these are all traditional pistol silencer designs. Higher back pressure, right? Really good suppression to bystanders. I mean, incredible, right? It ramps up the overall rating, and the muzzle rating ramps it up. Look, you got for the Obsidian 45 and the long configuration and the CGS Mod 9 and the Trident 9, they have muzzle suppression ratings in the 50 zone, dude. That's really high. Right? It's really quiet. With Spear Lawman, 147 grain, this is full power defensive surrogate ammo. It's subsonic, but it's not anemic subsonic. It's real. Okay? And in the 50 zone, those silencers operate at the muzzle. That's pretty big deal. Okay? Really good suppression to bystanders. Okay? But the shooter is subjected to more hearing damage risk due to the lack of early time flow rate with those silencers. That's right. The back pressure is too high on those pistol silencers for you to be able to get as favorable a signature at the shooter's ear as you would with the Cash 9K or the Resilient Suppressors RSP. That's how it is. Okay? This is reality. This is reality. Okay? This is how it is. Now you'll notice the Obsidian 45 in the long configuration, it's trying really hard at the ear, but because it gets way quieter at the muzzle since it's so long. It's like one of the longest pistol silencers ever. But that flow restriction is ramping up even further when you put in the long configuration. So you're robbing Peter to pay Paul. That's right, because it's a traditional design. 1 second, I need some water. That's right. It's funny how once you understand this, and with pistols, it's really, it can be clinically obvious just due to the way the action works. So, this is how it is. Now, I'm sure you have questions. For example, is this only a function of host? Does this only happen on a pistol? I mean, did you guys know that handguns were back pressure sensitive? You actually may not know that, and that's okay. Now you do know. Clearly, a handgun, even a full-size quality HK handgun, is back pressure sensitive. Right? I mean, you can see it is. And if that sensitivity is pertaining to inner ear damage risk to the shooter, right? Clearly it is. We can talk about mechanically why it would also be back pressure sensitive, but physically to you, the end user, clearly it is. Now, you've heard about direct blowback 9mm subguns and pistol caliber carbines, the PCCs, right? 1 second. You've heard about those. And you've heard about those being pretty back pressure sensitive too, yeah? But what else have you heard? What about the MP5? How back pressure sensitive is the MP5? It's not as much. It's not as back pressure sensitive as like a direct blowback gun, right? Because it has roller delay blowback, right? But is the MP5 still sensitive? What if, as a matter of fact, this is maybe a question you're asking yourself right now. What if you ramped up the flow rate really high on an MP5? Would you notice a difference? Is there any shooter's ear performance to be squeezed out on the MP5? Can we squeeze more out of the MP5 at the shooter's ear? Well, friends, you're in luck. That's right. If you're asking that question deep in your mind, you're in luck because I did that test. Cash 9K on the SP5 in the next topic right now. That's right. Topic 2 at a time of 45 minutes and 36 seconds. Okay. Man, we are making great time. That's good. I'm going to get this done. Oh, I didn't think I was going to get it done, and I have less than an hour before I got to drive. Okay. Topic 2. Sound signature review 698. The HUXWRX Cash 9K on the HK SP5 9mm subgun. Technical discussion. The MP5 and its benefit from lower back pressure. Did you ever think you'd even hear that? I don't know. Let's go to it. I'm going to hit back in my browser to reviews. I'm going to go ahead and pull it up on pewscience.com. Same as the other one. Let's get right down to it. Bottom line up front, 47.8 composite suppression rating. Same silencer, different host. 45.3 at the muzzle, 43.2 at the ear. Wait a minute. What in tarnation? You may be thinking 43.2 at the ear? What? On the MP5? Hold up. That's right. Let's do something in the name of time here. That is a theme lately, isn't it? Scroll in the interest of time. Scroll all the way down. Let's cheat. Scroll all the way down to figure 5 in this review. Scroll down. Keep going. Boom, boom. Skip the graphs. Skipping the member stuff. Do. Okay, boom. Figure 5. Okay, there it is. Figure 5. Okay. Oh, good golly, Miss Molly. 3 silencers. 1 host weapon. Tuned MP5. That's right. The tuned MP5. 80-degree locking piece with a fixed stock. Okay? 80-degree locking piece with a fixed stock. This is the MP5 suppressor host. Okay? This is the host that if you want to compare 9mm silencers, this is what you use. Okay? This is what you use. If you want to compare 9mm silencers on a subgun, you would use an MP5 with an 80-degree locking piece. It's tuned to the tuned to the tuned. That's what it is. Okay? This is in the silencer sound standard because it has been the industry standard for decades for silencer people. That's right. This is the SP5, an actual German semi-auto MP5 made by HK. This is the weapon used in these tests. Okay, look at the results. Look at the shooter's ear results in figure 5. The Cash 9K is the quietest. It is the least damaging overall to the shooter. It is the least damaging overall to the shooter's ear on this weapon of the 3 silencers shown. It beats the RS9 and it beats the Phoenix. One second. Thank you for your patience with me coughing, and I've run on 0 sleep. Okay. But yeah, isn't that crazy? Figure 5 is insane to me. Let's talk about why. But first, let's give some caveats. 1, you only have 3 silencers in the figure. Okay? Data set's limited right now. I understand that, but we're going to make do with what we have. Let's talk about these 3. 1, the Phoenix is a dedicated subgun silencer. Old school. Its purpose Its express purpose is extreme suppression with enough coaxial space to not drown you in gas if it can help it. That's like basically, it's an MP5 silencer, dude. That's what that is. The Phoenix is an MP5 silencer. That's what it is. Okay. The RS9 is a new school subgun silencer. It's not old school at all. It's pretty new school that uses some old school technology in an interesting way, in an interesting combination of ways, and it has a super high flow rate. And what the RS9 does, like the RSP from Resilient, is it puts a priority on shooter's ear performance. And it does that while trying not to sacrifice the overall signature too much. Just like the RSP, you'll notice the RS9 was trying to be balanced too. They committed to the low back pressure behavior. They did commit, but they didn't fully commit. They're not HUXWRX. Of all the companies, Resilient you can tell they want to. And I haven't talked to them about this, but I know what they're trying to do. And it's funny to see them do it like this. And I can almost feel their desire to go all the way. They're still young. We'll give them time. Okay. I know you guys are listening. I'm just messing with you. Now, look at the Cash 9K. Tiny, compact pistol silencer with an extremely high flow rate. And what does that extremely high flow rate do on a really short, small pistol silencer? Well, the muzzle signature is going to get louder. Okay. We know that. That's par for the course. We've learned that. Now, you understand these three things, these three silencers, big picture, yeah? So now let me ask you a question. Big picture. Let's keep talking big picture. Let me ask you a question. If the MP5 is not gas sensitive, why is the shooter's ear suppression rating on the MP5 so high with the Cash 9K when it's so much louder at the muzzle? That's a rhetorical question. The answer is the MP5 is in fact gas sensitive, even with the 80-degree locking piece. That's right. And before I tested this and analyzed the data, I did not know the degree to which it was gas sensitive. I didn't know. I did not know this. I don't think HUXWRX knew this about the MP5. I know that other silencer companies didn't know it. I know Dead Air didn't know it. I know Silencer Co. doesn't know it. I know every single PEW Science client doesn't know. Nobody knew. But now I know. So now you know. Okay? And now everyone who chooses to read this knows. All right? You heard it here first, folks. I'm telling you, show me where someone characterized this before PEW Science. The MP5 does indeed exhibit some degree of gas sensitivity, and it manifests at increased inner ear damage risk to the shooter when suppressed. Full stop. Them's the brakes, kid. That's the truth. That's the unadulterated truth. So that's what you see in this review. We don't even have to go through this in detail today like we did for the pistol review. You learned enough about the Cash 9K. It's the same silencer. You see similar features in the waveforms. Just look through this. What is this? This is review 697. Look through it just like you did with 696. You know enough now. Okay? You see similar features in the waveforms. The silencer's behaving like it behaves. It has a unique fingerprint on the host. That's right. Fast venting. High flow rate. Look at it. I'm here to tell you. And look, this may blow your mind because this thing isn't new. If this thing is the same as the short configuration of the RAD9, like I talked about in the previous topic, that means that this technology has been sitting here for a long time and nobody told you. I mean, the manufacturer told you, but who's going to believe a manufacturer, right? Because they're all going to say their silencer is the best. I mean, right? I mean, I'm not going to blow your skirt up here. Like, you know why PEW Science exists. Come on, guys. How are you going to trust a manufacturer? Some of them are cool, but the chances of them being honest with you about their performance? Come on, man. Right? So no one was going to believe them. No one was going to believe HUXWRX or OSS. Right? Right. So who else was telling you? A YouTuber? Oh, they don't have a vested interest at all. Right? How would you know? How would you even know? How would you know? What you could do? You could take a hearing test before you got some silencers with your twin. And then both of you could go shoot the silencers without ears for a while, without hearing protection for a while. And then what you could both do is you could go have monthly checkups at the doctor, and you could see whose ears got the most damaged faster. You could do that. Or you could use the suppression rating. You see now what I'm talking about? It's not the Pepsi challenge, no. It's how likely you are to blow out your ears over time. That's what the suppression rating helps you with. And that's what these graphs show. Okay, I know they have colors, and some people actually make fun of it and say, "Oh, there's pretty colors." Yeah, I provide colors so the human eye can differentiate between the figures and stuff. It's just to help people. If you have another way, I guess you could use patterns. I try to do that too, so in case you print this in black and white, you can still read it. That's what you do, okay? But right here, I'm showing you on this graph, this shows us the suppression rating. And for all I know, with the direct thread mount on this MP5, the short configuration of the RAD9 should be the same as the Cache 9K. As long as the RAD9 is, I think, the latest iteration of it, I think the internals are the same. So this should hold true for the short configuration of the RAD9 as well. And I guess we didn't know that, because I've never shot or tested, or I've never tested a RAD9. So, but now you know. It's cool, right? Now we have this data, and it totally blew my mind about the MP5. I thought for sure we had gotten to a threshold. Now you can see it almost looks like we are getting to a threshold on the MP5 at the ear, because we're all hovering around between 41 and 44, 41 to 43 at the ear on these three silencers. But look at the muzzle signature disparity. That what right there should tell you, oh my God, there's a significant back pressure phenomena going on, and I don't think this is going to be as in your face to you until you see more data from PEW Science. Because right now you have this limited data set, right? You have the you have the Phoenix, the RS9, and the Cache 9K. As far as I'm concerned, these three silencers are actually outliers in some respective categories. Wait until you start to see some run-of-the-mill stuff. I think you're gonna be like, oh my God. So just wait, be patient. Remember, PEW Science plays the long game, as you should. You should as well, okay? So I hope this was informative. Now, in the interest of time, I am cutting this short. If there are things I missed, I'm sure they are covered in the article. So go check it out on pewscience.com. Okay, 1 second. Okay, so last thing I'll say on this topic, big thanks to HUXWRX for trusting PEW Science to perform this work. It's a really big deal. It really is. I said this the other day on social media. It was on Reddit, I think, in response to a comment. I said that had I not started PEW Science, I would not understand suppressed small arms like I do now. It has helped my understanding greatly. It really has. And I know for a fact the public at large would not understand HUXWRX silencers as well as they do now, because I myself wouldn't understand them as well. All right, so it takes real testing and analysis for real characterization. There's no substitute. There's no shortcuts. Yes, it's hard. No, it's not supposed to be easy. Yes, it takes a lot of work. Okay, that's PEW Science. All right, let's move into topic 3 at a time of 58 minutes and 26 seconds. Oh my God, we're doing it. Oh, I can't believe this is getting done on time. I'm overjoyed at the prospect of success. Topic 3. This has been a significant, consistent effort, both inside and outside PEW Science. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for your support. I do want to give a note about the testing and analysis effort, and I want to remind you about the PEW Science mission. Okay, some of you might be new, but some of you, I think you're forgetting, so you need to be reminded. Okay? Whenever I think everyone by the... every podcast, I use the third or fourth, the last topic of the podcast to thank people. I want to give my gratitude. I believe it's important to continuously give gratitude where it's due. It helps me personally to thank people, and I hope that it means something to you folks because I want it to be a regular thing, because I don't want you to ever forget that I'm thankful for your support. It brings me joy that this podcast helps people, and I hope it's also somewhat entertaining for you. Okay, I try, and I recognize today I blasted through this. I didn't have a lot of chance for color commentary, and for that, I'm sorry. Sometimes that occurs. I have been going hard in the paint with 16 to 18 hour days this week in the lab, so I did have to fit in PEW Science and this podcast in the other available, like 6 hours or so of the 24-hour day. Okay, there's only 24 hours in a day. I've been lobbying the universe for more, but I haven't gotten any traction. I can't get more daytime. So your patience is appreciated. You all exercise it so greatly, and it's awesome. And I will get caught up with your emails soon. I wanted to say something really quick about the testing and analysis effort and why I do it. I wanted to say this because a lot of you folks are new to the podcast that are listening. Also because I'm not sure some people in the industry truly grasp this. Both large companies and the small companies and everyone in between. I'm not talking to any one person. I just think it's important. I want to make a few points. First point. There was no good testing and analysis of silencers publicly available. Full stop. There was none. It needed to happen, so I did it. Okay. Second thing. When I started this, the idea that I had, I presented it to multiple industry entities, from the smallest to the largest, and none of those entities were willing to take the risk because they knew. And why? Why was no one willing to take the risk? Because they knew it was going to alienate them to some manufacturers and other parties. So who took the risk? I did. Jay, me, talking to you. I took the risk. Okay, that's the second thing. Third thing. Every single person that buys a silencer or makes a silencer needs to understand the information on pewscience.com. Okay, now, let me elaborate. That actual need for understanding, that's actually a range. It ranges from needing to understanding the composite suppression rate at the top of the page all the way down to the time scales and the waveforms and the combustion analysis. Now, not everyone needs to know everything between those two things, but I assure you, everyone needs to know something in those articles, okay? I assure you. I assure you. Fourth thing. Without me, this effort would not have happened. Full stop. Okay? Without PEW Science supporters, it will not continue to happen. Full stop. Okay? That's it. Okay, so that's all I'm going to say about that. Those are facts. All right, there were decades of time where nothing like this occurred. History has shown that this would not have happened. I know it's hard for you. It's hard for some of you to understand that because you weren't here for decades. And those of you who were and are in denial about it, well, maybe you didn't understand it from the beginning. Okay, so that's all I'm going to say. I never forget the supporters of this effort, and I would ask you, listening, never forget how and why this effort was created. Every time you see someone slander PEW Science, that they aren't just slandering a business and me and this effort. No, they're slandering you, the listener to the podcast, and they're slandering you, the supporter of PEW Science, if you're a member. And I take it personally because this is blood, sweat, and tears, and it's selfless. And you should take it personally too. And I'm never going to stop thanking supporters on this podcast. I'm never going to stop. I'll thank them more. When someone tells me that I'm thanking someone too much, I'll thank them more. Okay? That's right. And if there's people that don't want to hear me thank people for doing the right thing, then you need to find another podcast to listen to. Okay? That's right. So stay safe out there, friends. I really do appreciate it. I hope you found the recent data and analysis informative. I hope the technical discussion on today's episode helped. This is actually a very complicated data set, these two articles. It's unbelievably complex. It's actually some of the most complex analysis that I think exists in the field of suppressed small arms. The OSS silencers in general, HUXWRX, whatever you want to call them, have presented unique challenges for combustion analysis throughout different flow regimes. And I feel that we have a really good handle on how they work. And again, none of this would have been possible without PEW Science members. And HUXWRX has now played a large part of that by contributing to the research cooperative and specifically giving extra funding for these articles to occur. So again, all of that is, I think everyone owes them thanks for that. Because not only did they help themselves by getting their word out about their products, they helped the field of study as a whole and the state of practice by funding the research. And that's what grassroots support is all about, PEW Science. Okay? I'll talk with you folks again soon.